The elevator stopped at the 47th floor. No one looked at her. No one ever did, until one night. She moved her fingers. Not to clean, but to speak. 3 simple signs. And someone saw. They didn't fire her. They took her upstairs. At 3:42 a.m., the elevator hissed open. Lorraine James stepped inside, head down, the weight of her cleaning cart gliding softly on rubber wheels. The fluorescence above buzzed faintly, casting a blue-tinted glow on the brushed metal walls. She stood in the back corner, invisible, as the usual group of late-night tech workers filed in, eyes tethered to their iPads, fingers dancing across glowing screens. Nobody nodded. One man, lost in his own thoughts, dropped a used coffee cup. It landed near her foot, not from malice, just a quiet certainty that someone would pick it up. She did, carefully. The man never looked. Floor after floor. At 50, she was alone again. The panoramic office stretched wide and high, all glass and angles. Outside, the skyline flickered, distant, dreamlike. Lorraine moved in silence, cloth in hand, wiping the cold glass with practiced rhythm. Each sweep left a trail of clean behind. She didn't glance down at the streets. She didn't need to. Her eyes focused instead on a reflection in the window. An older man in a leather chair, suit rumpled, mouth slightly open. The CEO, asleep, his coffee still steamed beside him. Earlier that week, a young manager had barked to a guard, "Don't touch his mug." Lorraine had listened. Tonight, she left a fresh cup beside the cold one. No one would know who did it. That was fine. Back on the train, the world felt dimmer, quieter than quiet. Lorraine rode home with her chin tucked into her collar, hands in her lap. A man at the end of the car, grimy coat, yellowed eyes, lifted a palm to her in greeting. She smiled, reached into her coat, handed over 2 crumpled dollars, and motioned with her fingers gently. "You are not alone." He didn't understand the words, not exactly, but he nodded, chest trembling. That was enough. Home was a one-room space with a clawfoot tub and a cracked tile above the faucet. Lorraine ran the water, sat on the edge, and traced her finger along the hairline fracture. Warm steam rose, curling into the silence. She looked at herself in the mirror, lips parted. Her eyes blinked once, slow. She didn't speak. She never had. Her phone vibrated once. A name she hadn't seen in years. Calhoun, the old teacher from the school for the deaf. He was being evicted. They were closing the building. "I need someone who'll remember," he had typed. Lorraine's thumbs hovered over her screen. She wrote, "I can't help." But she didn't send it. The words stayed, silent, unsent. On her dresser sat a small black notebook, bound with a yellow rubber band. It wasn't a diary. Inside were lists, streets, names, glimpses. A sentence scribbled that morning read, "Tall man, maroon tie, dropped charger in hallway. Didn't notice." She wrote in it every night, like breathing. That same night, just before 5 a.m., she found a boy in the east stairwell. He was no older than 10, wide eyes pressed against the wall, rocking gently. He wouldn't speak. Lorraine crouched, steady, slow. She tapped her chest, then pointed at him. Her fingers shaped hello. "You okay?" The boy stared, trembling, then nodded. A woman came rushing around the corner, security badge swinging, panic in her voice. "I lost him. Oh God, there you are." She dropped to her knees and held him close, then looked up at Lorraine, confused. He doesn't usually respond to people." Lorraine just nodded once, stood, and wheeled her cart away. The elevator doors shut on her again. She didn't mean to stop, but she did. On the 47th floor, she saw it through the corner of her eye. A man in a suit, voice low, sharp, angry, words hissing in the direction of a young woman near the copier. She was still holding paper, her shoulders curled inward. She said nothing. Lorraine paused, moved slowly past them, invisible like always. But her eyes stayed on the girl. The girl was blinking too fast, too often. When Lorraine turned the corner, she opened her notebook and wrote, Intern. Gray sweater. Crying. That night, she shared the elevator again with the CEO. He wasn't asleep. He looked at her. Not past her. At her. Lorraine breathed in. Then lifted her hands. 3 signs? See. Protect. Change. The CEO didn't flinch. His eyes held hers for a long moment. Then the doors opened. He stepped out without saying a word. She watched the doors close. Her pulse was steady, but something had shifted. In the way he looked. In the air that followed. At home, she couldn't sleep. She sat cross-legged on the floor, notebook open. She didn't write. Her fingers hovered. The silence wasn't empty. It was full, pressing, waiting. Somewhere in the building, a camera had seen it. Her hands. The gesture. A moment not meant to be spoken. But not everything needed to be heard. At 7:03 a.m., 2 security guards stood waiting for her in the lobby. Lorraine stepped off the service elevator with her gloves still damp, the edge of a cleaning rag tucked into her waistband. One of them nodded at her. The other gestured, not roughly, but firm. Upstairs. Now. She didn't ask. She never did. But her heartbeat ticked faster as she followed them through halls she only mopped, past offices where she'd never been seen, into a room with dark wood walls and chairs that didn't roll. A long table. 13 screens. 10 faces. 1 paused video. Grainy, black and white, frozen mid-frame. Her hands, captured in mid-gesture. No one spoke. She looked at the CEO. He looked down. Lorraine raised her hands slowly. Not to clean, not to plead, but to explain. Her fingers moved. Not polished or theatrical, but firm. Not blame, just truth. One woman shifted in her chair. A man leaned forward. The video resumed. Her 3 signs played again, soundless. Then nothing. She stood there. The CEO looked up, nodded once, then waved the guards away. Lorraine walked out alone. She turned the corner into the hallway and leaned against the wall. Exhaled. The gloves were still in her back pocket, forgotten. At the end of the hall, someone approached. A girl with her hair in a braid, carrying a laptop too big for her arms. The intern from before. I saw you, she said. Her voice was soft, like someone afraid of being overheard. In the elevator. I know what you said. Lorraine raised an eyebrow, curious. I took ASL in school, the girl added, half smiling. Not fluent, but enough. They stood together for a moment, a silence that wasn't awkward. Thank you, the girl whispered. And then she was gone. Later that afternoon, a director called Lorraine into a side office. Glass walls, cold light. He offered her a seat, then slid a paper across the desk. A contract. The salary was double. Quiet understanding, he said, not unkind. We appreciate your attention, but discretion is... She wrote it on the corner of a printout. 1 sentence, all caps. I don't sell my fingers. He didn't stop her from leaving. She found her locker open that evening. Gloves tossed on the floor. Papers torn. The yellow rubber band from her notebook snapped and left inside like a dead worm. Taped to the inside of the door. Janitor opinion. She stood still, then knelt, gathered her things piece by piece, folded them cleanly, put the rubber band in her pocket, locked the door. That night, in the central lobby, she saw a delivery man arguing with a receptionist, confused and sweating. She stepped forward, pointed, guided, turned to him and signed, loading dock, right, then left. He blinked. What? She smiled and repeated the gesture slowly. Someone watching from the lounge noticed. Then another. A woman in glasses mimicked the sign quietly, copying the shape of Lorraine's fingers. She didn't stop to notice. The next day, her photo appeared on the company's internal feed. A staged moment. CEO shaking her hand in front of a wall of monitors. Captioned, "Empathy is our future." People liked it, commented, clapped. That night, they moved her shift. Basement level. No windows, no elevators, just gray walls, humming pipes, and floor wax with a chemical sting. She didn't react, just started the mop again. Each stroke even. Later, when the building dimmed and most eyes turned away, A soft flicker lit up inside the company Slack channel. A video, not polished, just clips. Her hands showing a boy the way. Her notebook. Her signs in the elevator. The coffee cup. The crying intern. No music. No edits. Only quiet. And Lorraine. By sunrise, no one had commented. But the views climbed, click by click. She stepped into the main lobby. Her cart rolled behind her. No one ignored her. No one said anything. They just watched her walk past. Not loud. Not loud at all. But everything had gone still. The elevator doors opened on the 47th floor. Lorraine stepped in. The CEO was already inside, standing alone. He glanced at her. Not the way people glance past, but toward. His hands moved. Slow. Careful. 3 signs. Not perfect, but clear. Sorry. Thank you. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. But her breathing changed. Just slightly. Enough. He looked down. Then forward. They rode in silence. At 8:10 a.m., in the design wing, a small group stood gathered around a laptop. One of them waved her over. Lorraine paused, hesitated, then stepped in. No one said her name. No one asked her to speak. A designer turned the screen to her. On it, a rough layout, a website, clean and open, a space for hands to be read, for silence to be heard. The girl from before, her braid now tucked into a bun, tapped the table and said, "We're building this. Not for you, with you." Lorraine looked at the interface, then lifted her hand. Not a full sign, just a shape. Approval. She left without a word. At noon, the manager, the one from the copier scene, the note on her locker, filed out of HR holding a box. His badge hung from one hand. He stepped into the elevator and saw her coming. He didn't hold the door. She caught it anyway. He kept his eyes on the floor. She didn't look at him. At the 3rd floor, he stepped out, fast. She stayed inside, hands still at her sides. Later that week, a team meeting was held in the lower atrium. Chairs in a circle, coffee, laptops, and Lorraine. She didn't sit. The intern sat beside her, tablet open, fingers ready. When they turned to Lorraine, she signed with clear, unhurried motion. And the intern spoke. "Dignity doesn't have to be loud." Silence followed. Then someone, an older man near the window, repeated the last sign with his hands. Clumsy. Honest. Lorraine blinked once. That was enough. By Friday, the notebook with the yellow band was no longer in her pocket. It lay in the main hallway, next to the bulletin board. Open. Inside, diagrams of gestures, translations written softly beside them. Not lessons. Invitations. People slowed to look. Some stayed. A few tried. The hallway wasn't quiet anymore. It wasn't loud either. But there were hands moving and eyes watching. Someone asked her to apply for a new role. Inclusion officer. Desk. Title. Business card. She declined. Wrote on the form, "Let the speakers speak. I'll show." On Monday, she took the main elevator. No mop cart. No gloves. Just her notebook, closed, under one arm. It was rush hour. Bright light through glass. Colleagues turned as she entered. "Morning," one said. Lifting a hand halfway into a sign, another echoed it. Then another. No one shouted. No one clapped. But the silence had changed. By mid-morning, she was back on the 50th floor. Same office. Same glass. She cleaned with slow, careful rhythm, as always. Only now, beside her, stood the intern, holding a bucket, watching the strokes. And in the reflection on the glass, Lorraine was no longer off to the side. She was centered, still, eyes forward, on the last page of her notebook, left open in the lobby. Someone had drawn a line under her final note. He didn't shout, but everyone went quiet.